Hi, good evening. I'm Christy Boudreau, Chair of the Hatfield School Committee, calling us into session for the December business meeting. It's the 16th of December. And as we come to order tonight, before we go to public comment, I just want to note to the committee that we have the potential for a dozen votes on our agenda tonight, and I'm going to do what I can to keep things moving. So if you need more time on something, flag me and we'll take it. But otherwise, I will do my best to get us through. Is there anyone joining us online for public comment this evening? See anyone? And there's no one with us here in as we go. And so as we head into a mission moment, I want to take a moment and recognize that there were 3 killed in Madison, Wisconsin today in another school shooting and 6 injured. It was the 323rd elementary or secondary school shooting in our country this year. And while that's beyond devastating, I also want to recognize my thankfulness for the many ways in which we keep our kids safe. Be it through our facilities that we are mindful to keep our kids safe, our online monitoring, which is, there are a lot of different ways in which we keep our students safe, and I'm particularly thankful for that tonight. And that's sort of a downer mission moment, but it is in fact one of our missions that we're going to have that environment for our students. So are there others that we'd like to share? There's been some good things going.
Yeah, I was excited to took some feedback that folks wanted to see the younger students performing. So it was absolutely fantastic to have preschool and kindergarten performing this year at our concert. And a huge shout out to Nurse Jean, because she invited the seniors and was able to procure some coffee. So it was really great that people were excited to walk in and get some free coffee if they so chose to enjoy before they were able to sit down and enjoy our show.
It was standing room only. It was awesome. And there were some true performers.
I'm glad we
Not
included
the
the seniors. Yes, my kid.
He was fantastic.
He always is.
So, other mission moments?
Sure, I'll echo. We had a secondary band concert and art show as well, and it was very well attended. A lot of people there, and they sounded great. They sounded absolutely wonderful. They broke out Trans-Siberian Orchestra for one of their songs, which was kind of incredible. So it was wonderful. And then we've also kicked off our basketball season. We had the girls on Friday notched a nail-biting win against Smith Oak. And the boys right now, the JV just finished their game, and they were significantly in the lead when I left. And then the varsity game started 8 minutes ago. And they're playing Hopkins tonight. Hawks versus Falcons.
That's exciting.
All right. Anybody else? Anything need to come off the consent agenda? Okay, so those minutes for our last meeting are approved. You will see a student representative report via email, and because our students who rep are quite busy students. I appreciate that.
Should I close out the Zoom?
And we can close out Zoom because we've finished with public comment. And if anybody wants to join us, they can go to the Hatfield Community YouTube page. And so that will be handy because you can make your presentation there.
Wonderful. All right,
To talk
dive
about
right into it.
Pathways.
So I kept the presentation relatively short. It's going to be more kind of just information about innovation pathways. And if you have questions, I'm happy to field those as best I can. Present. All right, so we're talking about innovation pathways that we are planning. We're in the planning stage this year for implementation next fall, so fall of the 25-26 school year. I included a few things on the cover here. DESE, because the Innovation Pathways program has been sponsored and pushed through DESE and funded by grants. And also Vermont State University, which is our newest partner in dual enrollment, which they call concurrent enrollment, which is nice to have a little bit of separation. You'll see why in just a moment. So just a brief overview as to what innovation career pathways are. This is from the DESE slideshow. So the goal is really to have students identify career goals and work options that they like to work towards starting in high school. So those careers can include post-secondary education as part of it. Um, and and the pathways would include some high school coursework, some post-secondary coursework, so it includes partnerships with universities and colleges, as well as real work experience. So partnering with businesses or organizations that offer that kind of job opportunity. So students, the goal is to have students, when they leave a high school through one of these innovation programs, to have some sort of credentialing, an industry standard credential as they come out of it, um, work experience in that field, and college coursework that prepares them to further their study in higher education. And so it's designing these pipelines to help students, if they have an interest in these areas, to get experience in those areas. And this is kind of talks about what I just said. The goal of innovation pathways, they're threefold. Um, and then DESE provides grants for planning and implementation of innovation pathways. So we have secured funding for the planning stage. You will hopefully approve, when we get to that point, a $15,000 grant that we got from DESE. And the goal of the planning grant is to develop our internal coursework, so our high school courses, and programs of study that need to bring students into that level, and also to develop post-secondary courses that align with college courses, so students can get that experience as well. Uh, and that's what our goal is with this funding this year. So we have two innovation pathways that we're looking to build, and we are hopeful and pretty sure that we can do this both pathways for next year, for the start of the 2025-26 school year. So the first one I've talked about before is the Adventure Leadership Innovation Pathway, which provides an avenue for students who are interested in the outdoor industry or outdoor education, to kind of head that direction. So we're in-house, we'll be developing our kind of a basic adventure leadership course, what what I call kind of an outdoor education light course. And so that would be available for students. It's a high school course to take, and it would likely run during an X block time, and include weekend sort of outings as well, that students would, as they become more comfortable with the material and the skill set, take a leadership role in leading those outings. It would involve industry credentialing through wilderness first aid and wilderness first responder, outdoor emergency care for students who are more interested in going kind of um, to the front country realm of things. That's what OEC is for. Those are kind of the baseline standards for anyone going into that field, is having that background. And then if students are interested in sort of specializing, we can work with partnerships through our industry partners, places like Berkshire East, the Department of Conservation and Recreation. We're working, and we have a very great connection to the AMC as well, the Appalachian Mountain Club. So students really will be able to kind of focus on what their area of interest is. And then we also have post-secondary partnerships that we're developing through, and for this particular innovation pathway, those are through Vermont State University and through Greenfield Community College. GCC has a really fantastic outdoor education program. It's wonderful. And they've been doing a lot of what we're hoping to do as well at that higher level. And then Vermont State University also has a couple really fantastic programs. They offer bachelor's programs in things like resort management, that kind of thing. So more of the kind of the industry side of outdoor outdoor education. The second innovation pathway is not quite as far along in the planning stage yet. But it's a mental health innovation pathway. We've had a lot of students who have expressed interest in psychology and sort of therapy or counseling, and kind of going into that field. So again, we would be creating in-house coursework around psychology. So we already have a psychology course that we've run. We'd be looking to partner with universities and colleges for dual enrollment, or develop those courses in-house, which we'll talk about in a second. And we have a number of area organizations that are interested, have expressed interest in partnering with us, specifically around the student work opportunities. And that could be everything from students who are interested in maybe early childhood, working in our elementary school, students who are interested in working with population with disabilities. We have area organizations in the area that are focused on that. And so again, that would be the place where it would really allow students to sort of kind of specialize into what their interest is.
Can I ask a question before you?
Sure can, yeah.
Is this a separate pathway then,
It is.
than your first sentence there, avenue for students
Oh.
interested in outdoor education and in
Is,
outdoor
and you know what?
industry?
I copied that first sentence and I never changed it. That's why.
I
That's
didn't
where
know
that
if it was
came from.
supposed to be for
Nope,
students
interested-
not interested in.
No, it's for students who are interested in psychology or
Okay.
Or mental health.
Thank you.
Counseling. Yes. So
I
you
didn't
can-
know if that was an offshoot of the first one
No.
or if it's an entirely
No,
separate.
this one really came from student interest. So we had a lot of students recently. We got feedback from students about kind of courses that they would be interested in seeing us offer, and this was really at the top of the list for a number of students, as well as some other ones which we're able to develop, and we'll talk about those in just a second too. So in terms of where we are now and what the next steps are for these innovation pathways. So right now we're firming up and partnerships with Vermont State University and Greenfield Community College. I'm happy to announce that we are able to publicly declare now that we are a partner with Vermont State University, that we are developing concurrent enrollment courses. These are our own in-house courses with Vermont State University, so that we'll be able to run those courses at Smith Academy, taught by teachers who have been certified through Vermont State University to offer those courses, which means students will be able to graduate having taken their high school requirements, but also, if they choose, they'll be able to graduate with a transcript for the coursework that they've done from Vermont State University. And the goal really is, well, I'll get there in a second, but right now, to focus on the innovation pathways. So we're developing our in-house courses. So those are the courses that aren't the college level courses too. So we have a couple of courses that we'll be offering, or pathways that include courses that we already offer to help guide students toward their interest in the industries. And then in terms of concurrent enrollment courses, I put a little asterisk on that because this last slide here is not necessarily related to innovation pathways, but it came out of the innovation pathway kind of preparing for it. And so one of the things that when we were speaking with Vermont State University, one of the things that came up was that they offer something called concurrent enrollment, which is different than dual enrollment because students don't have to travel there. And we found that that is a pretty significant barrier for our students enrolling in a college course. Couple of things have to align. Their schedule has to allow for it. There's only a certain number of courses that are offered during that time, so they have to choose from that pretty limited selection. And then the student has to be willing to miss part of the course before their classes at Smith Academy before and after as they travel to and from. And so that's been a bit of a barrier we've found. We've had a number of students take advantage of it. But what concurrent enrollment does is it allows us to choose some courses that are offered through Vermont State University, develop those courses to align with the level of rigor and work that is expected at the college level, and have our own teachers certified to teach those in-house. So students will be able to take courses at Smith Academy for college credit. And so the goal is that if students choose to, by the time they graduate, if they've gone up through and they're eligible their junior and senior year to take these courses, that they could have finished a full semester of college study with these credits. Um, so we discovered that this option existed through the pathways, but then expanded from it. They said, it doesn't have to be just our outdoor education, courses that you can do. You can do this wide open. So we've requested 24 courses, descriptions from them that came from our teachers who are interested in all those courses. And so we have those course descriptions now. And then from those 24, staff are going to work on paring that down to see what they're really interested in offering. And so we'll rotate those through every other year. We'll have some different courses. So students have, they can take a couple courses their junior year and a couple courses their senior year, which are different. So they won't have to take the same thing over. So that's pretty exciting. I don't know of any other school that is going to be doing that. I haven't heard yet that universities in Massachusetts are doing this yet. I think one of the reasons that Vermont State University is doing it is because their campuses are largely rural, and they're looking to kind of create traction to get students in line to come there. And so they've developed this option, which really fits with what our needs are as well. So I think it could be a really great opportunity for our students. And it could really help kind of push our students to get involved in these higher level courses.
Questions?
Just like a really short logistical question
Mhm.
regarding the concurrent enrollment. Are those like year-long courses?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can develop them either as semester-based courses or year-long courses. For our schedule, the general feeling among staff is that it would make more sense to do them as year-long courses rather than semester-based courses. But that we could decide to shift that too.
I mean, I think it sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No.
As I asked earlier, the psychology one is a separate, and that was largely driven by student interest.
Mhm.
The outdoor leadership adventure path, is that also driven by our students, or is that something from DESE that's saying there's a need in this field and this is an avenue to look at?
No, we have some interest. So if there wasn't interest, we wouldn't be developing it. It's not considered one of the avenues that DESE has said that these are innovation pathways. But they have. That being said, they still gave us the grant to say develop this pathway, and you can do it. You can kind of do it internally. Really, this came from some of our staff have a background in this, and they have had pretty powerful experiences with it, and think it could be a good kind of niche to explore, which isn't currently being done. Part of the reason why,
No one, right?
right?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
so
is a very unique
Yeah.
program.
yeah, so part of that the reason was because the innovation pathways are gaining traction now. So there's a lot of these pathways that exist around, but this has seemed like an area where we know that there is need. You can talk to any ski patroller, and they're always
Yeah.
looking for people. Or and so that we're excited to be able to offer it to them.
I am so excited and pleased to hear the enthusiasm from our staff
Yeah.
at wanting to do this, and that you're even exploring 24 options to narrow down. That's more than I had
Yeah.
imagined would be.
So
I think it was more than they imagined. They were
think
like,
it's
"Whoa, okay,
awesome.
it's going to take us some time to get you all
Yeah.
these descriptions." And great.
So looking at each of the innovation pathways,
Mhm.
how many students do we need to have participating for us to feel like it's successful, or to keep it to be for the juice to be worth the squeeze, I guess?
So for once the pathway is rolling, you don't need many. You need to be able to have enough students in the classes that we offer internally to run the classes. That's part of the reason that we're looking to create kind of a rotation among those college level courses, is to be able to have the critical mass of students to offer those. Once students are, once they're either enrolled in dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment, and once they're looking for their business partners or organizations, that's really student by student. So we might have one student who wants to take advantage of a work study or internship, and we can offer that one student that opportunity. We might have 5 or 10 students that want to do that. We can do that as well. So really, there's once you have the pathway developed, it exists, and you're able to run it as long as you're able to run the courses.
And our schedule typically would allow us to run courses
It would. Yep.
fairly small
Yep.
interest level.
It would. Yeah. And some of
While
these
the program grows, I would
exactly while it grows, and some of the courses that we're looking truthfully may replace some of the courses that we currently offer. So if we have AP Calculus, which we run, which is designed to be a college level course anyway, and we have College Calculus that we develop, we can have students take College Calculus instead of AP. They can still take the AP test at the end of it and be prepared to do it. And regardless of whether they get a 4 or 5 or whatever on the AP test, they will still have that college credit already because it's a college level course.
Can juniors and seniors take the class together, or is it separated by grade?
Yep, they can take them together. Most of our elective blocks are grouped such that juniors and seniors can take them
Good.
together. Yep.
Anything else?
I mean, I think I
Sounds
just want
great.
to say this sounds really good. I
I'm-
think especially like as a small district, like we are aware that we cannot do everything, but for like many years we have talked about these like small things that we would like to do really well and differently, and I think this is really good. So
Mhm.
And something that we can kind of own.
right,
Yeah.
right, like something that's a little different that other school because like this is going to require a lot of like one-on-one guidance with students, and that's something that we can offer
Mhm.
in a small district. So
Absolutely.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And so next step is just getting the word out.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a big part of our push in January. We're going to be having a significant push for everything that we're offering, school choice, open houses, that kind of thing.
Which is covered to some degree in your report. So I'm not going to ask you to repeat that, but if there's anything the committee wants to bring off of reports to ask questions about, anything you guys want to speak to that was in your report that you want to make sure we speak to? You don't have a copy of all of that, but I do have a copy of,
Oh no, but I do have.
of yours.
Okay. Nothing that is
Jumping out.
jumping out at me.
So I did get one question, Ms. Petra,
Yeah.
from our wayward committee member who could not join us tonight, has received some parent questions about report cards, because it was report card season.
Yep.
Do you know when the last time Hatfield Elementary looked at the report card it uses?
It's been a while, and I can tell you that our staff would love to redo them because they're not truly written standards-based like they would like them to be. But it literally would take a committee and a group of people to sit down and to take the time to rewrite them. But they are definitely wanting to and are open to that idea.
I think if they were looking for other support, there are many who would
Mhm.
offer their time and help.
Okay.
I think generally parents find them confusing. Probably not just parents. So
Okay.
They've been this way for a long time, and before that, it was the old folded, and you're checking off all the little, cardstock. Yeah. This is the first upgrade from the cardstock ones.
P's and BG's and like
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
the
MP. I think the the lack of like just teacher comments is a little hard because you don't know like what does it mean that my kid is meeting expectation? Like what is the expectation? Like it does say on the side what is, but like it's not very clear how well your kid is doing what needs to be worked on unless you've had a meeting with the teacher, which there isn't a meeting with the teacher right before the report cards or after the report cards. And that's for up to third grade. I think after in fourth grade, it becomes a bit more clear on.
I would say yes.
I find it clearer now that my kid is in fifth grade. I know where he's at then I know my third grader, I have no clue. I think he's doing okay. Like, that's,
Just, yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of work to prepare.
yeah.
Yes, but at the same time, like I said,
It takes
since
time.
I've started, they have been like, we would love to just sit down and revamp the report card.
We would love them to.
Is there
Okay.
anything that's holding that back?
Time?
Time, right?
Okay.
I would just, maybe it's, yeah, trying to figure out and carving out time to do that.
Kevin, on
Okay.
fire?
So
I have
I
one
don't
other.
hear anything about Smith Academy report cards ever.
That's all right. Can I pull one thing off of my
Please.
thing to highlight? It's just a thank you to the town. We received word that so earlier we had shifted our freezer project, the capital project, to the kitchen boiler at the elementary school because it was a similarly priced fix that needed to occur and it needed to occur immediately. We were able to do that, and then the town has now generously allowed us to use ARPA funding for the freezer project, so that's back on track as well at the elementary school, as well as the HVAC upgrades at Smith Academy. So
Wonderful.
all those projects are all now under contract, and the boiler should be coming any time now. And then the other projects will be done when students aren't in the building because they're more significant.
Awesome job. It's nice to pull those off the capital plan.
Yep. Yeah, and
Anything
again,
off
just
of
thank you
capital.
to
Anything
the town for allowing that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Appreciate their ARPA funds.
Mm.
Okay. Did you have something else?
I answered my own question, but I think it'll be a comment. In this case, it's specific to the student services report. There were a lot of acronyms in there,
Hmm.
and they weren't all.
I think we might have a future meeting that has a little more time from student
Yes.
services. So why don't we just put that on an agenda?
I'm just
In the new
thinking,
year.
just give us a little coded guide
cheat
on the
sheet.
side that says,
We need an
What is
education
what?
glossary.
yeah.
Just
Like,
because there's a
I
lot
mean, you
of
guys rattle
acronyms.
them off, but
We're trying to keep up.
yeah, some of them we miss.
Um, so with that, I'm going to move on to the school finance subcommittee report. And in Mr. Sullivan's absence, I will do a quick rundown that fiscal 25 is still on track. When we come back next year, we're going to do some transfers. And that's really just because we had to hire a little bit differently than we planned in the budget. So things are shifting from one line to another. So they aren't salaried positions. Our star room is supported through the field center this year. So it's most of those transfers are that shift. There's always the potential for out of district placements. And Adam and I just want to give you a heads up that we have been signing warrants for additional HVAC repairs. And those costs continue, boiler repairs as well. So everything at this time is within what we allotted in the budget. As you know, we budgeted for more significant repairs because we've been seeing that trend. But we know that we are on last legs with some facility issues. So the roof, the boilers, and HVAC stuff. So just being mindful that that's all there. As we turn, we're heading into fiscal 26 planning, and the town's in fact ready for us to share our budget. We are not quite ready for that. Particularly, we have teacher negotiations coming up, which will have some impact to that budget. But we've been preparing for that so that we can hopefully know what we have going into those conversations, and have those conversations prior to budget season so that we don't have any surprises as we get to town meeting. And we've been, a shout out to both Dr. Driscoll and to Riley for a lot of work in pulling together and looking at that budget particularly early. We know we have some increases coming. Transportation will be another 4,600 from what it was this year. Our tech services are going to be up about 8,000. Software and subscription rates continue to go up. We're watching to see where utilities are because we did the last few years, we had some really big spikes in utilities despite the fact that we have solar and participate in the Cal Credit program, which is really cool. But those have continued to go up. So we're watching to see if we've got enough in the budget and continuing to budget for repairs. We wanted to make sure that you knew capital planning, which is also a part of that. So capital planning is the portion where school as a part of town puts in our budget items that are $10,000 or more that would require capital planning approval. The boilers at HES are the top priority. And we continue to look for grants that would help that as well. The roof at HES has been on the capital plan, I think, as long as I've been on the school committee and probably longer. And it's, yeah, it's there and it's holding for the moment. The parking lots also have been on that capital plan list for some time.
Almost as long as I've been on.
Yeah. Those parking lots are been around, huh? So, and the new ad for this year is that the bleachers at Smith Academy, that the motors are on their last breath.
And it would cost more to retrofit the bleachers to work with different motors than it would to get new bleachers.
We had the
There's something
bleachers
wrong with that, just in and
Mhm.
of itself. But
we had the bleachers redone with school choice money early in the school choice years.
Okay.
That we refurbished them and got them all nice and pretty because they hadn't been done in forever.
Mhm.
So that was a long time ago, and it's not surprising to me that
Ye-
the motors are going.
Yeah, and the issue is not that the bleachers necessarily are
Right.
unsafe. It's just a matter of not being able to get them back.
get them moving.
Yeah.
So just facilities
Mhm.
age, and we have a responsibility to keep them going. The preschool town census indicates we have numbers to support 2 preschool classrooms next year. So you've got some information there on budgeting for 2 classrooms. We would need 14 full-time tuition-paying students to fully cover a second classroom. And we, of course, reserve room for students with needs. But it does look promising to have 2 rooms and at a pretty minimal cost. And it helps feed our pipeline. So those are the things we've talked about in school finance. Related to all of that are grant approvals, because always a portion of our budget is money that we get from outside of our town or school choice, and that's through grants. Part of the school committee's responsibility is to approve grants. And so basically, the reason for that is that they want to make sure that grants always come with work, right? And so if you're taking the money, you're taking on the responsibility of agreeing to the conditions and requirements that come with those funds. And so it's the committee's job to make sure that we're approving those. I can say that Dr. Driscoll and I looked at the list, and we are currently staffed and budgeted to meet all of the needs that are conditioned by any of the grants on this list. And so we could take this as a block group. You've got it printed in your handouts. Just because it was a bunch of numbers, I wanted to make sure you had it handy. So there is one that was, I would unsure, Dr. Driscoll, there's the nutrition equipment assistance,
Mhm.
FC 722. It says requested. Do we know if we have that?
I don't know if we have it yet or not. That's I don't believe we have heard back because I think we just submitted it about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago.
Okay. So I've given the committee totals with and without that, just in case, because I wasn't sure if we had that in. So would anyone like to make a motion to accept these grants?
I'll make a motion to accept the grants as presented. And are we excluding FC
I
722?
think we have to if we don't know that we
Yes.
have.
So the total amount of the grants is 207,252.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have our grants approved. So, doing our duty.
What's on the
That's
screen?
First of, it's the agenda.
Okay.
It's the agenda. So that was our first of what is going to be many votes as we look at the second half of the agenda. So next up, Ms. Bench, Policy Subcommittee report.
Yep. So policy is hard at work as always. You'll see on your written report that I put at the top sort of the plan that we have come up with for revising the student conduct policies. Our first step that we would like to focus on is to revise policy JK, which is the student code of conduct. This policy focuses on the positive expectations that we hold for students. It outlines our values, our philosophy, and our theoretical approach as a district. So we feel like we'd like to solidify that before we move on to anything that goes into things a little more nitty gritty. After that policy is done, our plan is to look further at policy JIC. This policy is more specific to addressing conduct concerns. It includes our legal requirements regarding student discipline that has things like suspensions that are sort of legally regulated. And then after that, with all our free time, we will look at the other adjacent policies related to conduct. Our overall goal, which I believe I've mentioned before, but I wanted to include here, is to have at least those core policies updated and ready to go for the 25-26 school year. As part of this, so sort of earlier in the month, we had finalized this plan. We thought this is, we've read through all these tons and tons of policies and decided this is the approach we wanted to take. Last week, we actually sat down and we had our policy subcommittee meeting in conjunction with the district SEL team, the SEL committee. So we had many additional attendees besides the policy subcommittee. Ms. Petrout was there, as well as Emily Anderson, Nicole LaFleur, Jean Hobby, and Kim Tran, who heads that committee. So it was great. We discussed with them we wanted to hear from the SEL committee or the SEL team about their sort of values and philosophies that they're already holding regarding conduct. We looked at policy JK together and discussed things that maybe we want to keep or might want to revise. And we had an extensive conversation regarding restorative practices and how these are already being implemented at various levels. We talked about the strengths and limitations of that framework. And there was sort of like a overall consensus, like a loose consensus in favor of incorporating that approach into our policy. So we in the subcommittee are looking into things further and hope to be presenting drafts soon. Do we have any questions about that update portion? Anything? Okay, so for today, this is like hopefully the simplest vote of the night, although, things surprise me. Currently in our policy manual, policy JK and JIC are both named student conduct, which is silly
Confusing.
and confusing. Yes, both. So we would like to, just for the time being, we would propose to change the name of JIC to student discipline. That's the one that is going to be more focused on the consequences of not meeting behavioral expectations. And that is kind of what that policy focuses on currently. So we're just hoping to make that quick name change to make things more clear going forward. And also for any interested parties who are like, wow, you're looking at the conduct policy, they will not discover that we have two that are the same name.
And it's a placeholder. Once we get to JIC, we may change the name again based on the content of the policy.
Give you
Yeah.
clarity while you're working. So I'd like to make a motion to adopt the name student discipline to our existing policy JIC. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Aman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
It'll just make things
Thanks,
really
everyone.
We
clear.
just like back and forth and back and forth.
We were like, student conduct 1 or 2?
No, and it's
And I
it's
think too,
nice
if
to
anyone looks it
clarify
up,
both
like, yes,
is
it'd be much
great.
better.
And I'm really excited to hear the SEL team coming in. Like that's
Yeah, it was
great
great meeting.
progress.
I'll just add that there was the agreement that we really wanted to focus on the positive, and you know, a lot of it was negative of do not do this and this won't be allowed, and we want to kind of flip that a little bit and add more positivity to it.
And having two distinct policies will really make that easier. Nice. Okay, anything else on that policy team? Great, so we're going to talk about, semi-related to the handbook updates for the Smith Academy handbook.
Mhm.
There were a handful of highlighted places. Can you speak to briefly
I sure can.
what's going on?
Yep. So right now we are in the middle of what's called a tiered focused monitoring, or TFM, audit, I guess, where the state comes in and they look at our civil rights and special education policies and practice, and they give us feedback if anything needs updating. And part of the feedback they gave us were on 3 different spots in the handbook, which are on pages 25, 30, and 35. So I will open this up real quick. And it's just language changes to basically update what we have here. Sorry if you get seasick while I'm doing this. So 25, on page 25, we needed to include the use of positive behavioral interventions and trauma-sensitive learning as part of what we do to try and re-engage students in their learning prior to any suspensions or expulsions.
So this is new language, not changed language.
This is new language that lines up with the new law 37H and 3/4, which is the new discipline law that took effect, I believe, not last November, but the November
Okay.
before. So that is one language addition that they.
Any comments on this before we leave this page?
Just that policy is on it. Additionally,
Okay,
talking about the handbook today, but we're also aware.
okay. Anything else? Okay.
On that.
I just don't want to have to come
Sure.
back to the page.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Close your eyes for a second if you'd like. Page 30. Page 30, we have to include language. Again, this is to line up with that law and practice. Emergency removal which presents a danger to property, substantially disrupts the order of the school, and in the principal's judgment, there is no alternative available to alleviate the danger or disruption. So those are, that's again part of that law around emergency removals, and that language is specific that needs to be included in
Leading up to that,
here.
concern about the infliction of serious bodily injury or other serious harm upon another person. Is this all about harming someone else, or is there anything about concern for serious bodily injury or harm to self? Is that addressed elsewhere?
That's not part of this law.
Okay.
In typically, what would happen is if we had concerns about someone causing self-harm or being self-injurious, is we would work with crisis services through CSO and the family to get that student the help that they need. This law is specific around removing if there's emergency removal based around a disciplinary infraction. If the disciplinary infraction is at risk of causing bodily harm to others or substantial disruption, that kind of thing.
I thought so, but I wanted to
Mhm.
clarify.
Anything else? Okay.
Right? 5 more pages. All right, and so on page 35, this is an update to the discrimination portion. We were asked to include gender as well as gender identity in the discrimination statement. And then we removed policy ACAB-R because we have removed that
Mm.
Right.
policy. That's a procedure. And then we also added the race, color, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, disability, or national origin to the discrimination statement. So this previously had been just the Title IX, which had been sex-based harassment and discrimination, and they request that we expand it to include
Yep.
all of that, all of the protected classes in our discrimination statement.
I bet I'm not the only one that has a slight tweak to that.
Okay.
Anybody else catch that? We
Yeah,
have a-
there's a duplicate.
There's a duplication of the
Oh, is
word
there?
sex in the.
Oh,
So if we could
sure
just,
there is.
anywhere you want to take
There
it
you go.
out. But
So that part is discriminations and sex-based harassment?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
any conversation here? Is there any other spot?
No, I don't believe so. I think those are the 3 spots.
Is there a motion to approve the updates in the Smith Academy handbook?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Just cruising on through these votes. Next up, thank you. That lined up. Do we need to make the same updates in the elementary?
We will need to. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that will come back. Next up, we can talk about school choice, seats by grade. So at our last meeting, we approved opening school choice up for the 25-26 school year. We voted to approve at least 1 seat per grade. And so the goal of tonight is, because those applications are due the 14th of February, we want to make sure that we're deciding how many spots are going to be open. So there is a recommended number of choice openings highlighted. This is unchanged from our last meeting on that fact. We just didn't vote on this portion. The only place where there's significant limitation is what is the current first grade will be second grade. The class size is currently 31. We're saying we're opening up 1 seat there.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the recommended choice spots. Would you like me to list them, or can I say as presented? I'll do either.
We should probably list them out so people understand what's available.
Okay,
So that it's public. But before we get to that, is there any other conversation? We can have it after we've got it on the table. But
right. I just thought I'd get it on the table.
unless somebody wants to change it, then we'll have to amend it. That's okay.
I don't have any other comments.
Okay. So go ahead and make a motion.
All right, to approve the recommended choice spots as follows.
Can you start with what will be? Actually, no, it'll be kindergarten.
It'll be kindergarten,
Yeah.
14, first, 4, second, 1, third, 10, fourth, 10, fifth, 6, sixth, 8, 7, 7, 8, 22, 9, 11, 10, 31, 11, 23, 12, 20.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So for those that are playing along at home, that puts those Smith Academy classes, the largest on that list would move up to be 43 students
If we got all
if
those.
everybody came in. And at the elementary, those class sizes are still 32 and under. So it's still really small class sizes with that list. And I think we've got some stuff going on at Smith Academy. I could see us getting more students in.
Can I ask, I think last meeting we talked about that there were some applications for
Mhm.
the January admission for the
Yep.
current year.
Yep.
Are those numbers reflected already in here or not until those students cross threshold? And in which case would those numbers need to be changed after January?
Believe those are included in here.
Okay.
We have 2 students starting in January.
Awesome.
Anybody else interested in making a pitch for adding more than one kid to the what will be second grade class?
Well, as with other times, if there is a sibling or more interest, we look at it
You can always come
at that
back.
We can
time.
always open it up.
Yeah. I have one other question about the ninth grade, and it says accounts for loss to Smith Voc. Have current eighth graders already applied to Smith Voc? Has that already happened? I thought that happened after the first of the year.
It happens starting around November.
Awesome.
Yep.
So we already know and we're well prepared for it. Good. That's it for my questions.
Okay. You guys ready to vote? All in favor for approving the choice spots as reviewed and recommended? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we know how many seats. And now for the fun conversation about the 25-26 school year calendar. So it turns out that we sent Dr. Driscoll away to follow up on one big question, and he got some news back, which was
So there will be no regional professional development next year run through the collaborative. So the November full day professional development day, we can move as we will.
so that
Excellent.
on the previous draft had been on the 4th of
That's
November.
the 4th, yeah.
We had a conversation in our meeting that if that didn't happen, we might look to move that to line it up with Veterans Day because Veterans Day falls on a Tuesday. So for the sake of moving the conversation
Mhm.
forward, I did that on draft 2. So you can see it would mean that we would have the 10th and 11th off together.
I think families will like having a full week of school instead of all those short weeks.
Agreed.
Yeah. We heard back from the HTA who was very much in favor of the December break schedule. And so
Were they in favor of the 10th and 11th piece or?
we didn't know that prior. So, but the 11th comes when it does. We can't
Right.
move Veterans Day. So they had an interest in having the Wednesday before Thanksgiving be a whole day instead of a half day. But that would require us to either start earlier or stay later.
We've tried that in the past and it really had mixed results and people really wanted to just go back to the half day.
I feel like
mean-
half day is nice because, like, if people are traveling, then they can like head out early, and the kids are not missing a whole.
Yeah, it counts
of
as a day of
school.
school.
Staff cannot travel.
People
though, is my
travel.
guess. 'Cause I think there's a rule that they only so many people can be out on right before, 3 people can be out before.
If they're
Correct.
choosing personal
vacation.
days, yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do agree.
So, okay. Additional conversation?
I would like the 19th of December to have a notation that it is a full day of school, because I'm sure families will question that, given that it's always been the half day, the last day before that winter break. I think it's reasonable to have a full day, and I just want to be clear about it for families. I know it's said in December that the 22nd through January 2nd is no school. I don't know if it's worth repeating in the month of January that the 1st and 2nd is still winter break. I don't know.
I think they're red. Like there's
They're
no
red.
I
school.
hope so, but
Plus it goes out in letters and
Yeah.
all right. But as long as the 19th is there.
I just had this very minor things. When we do the final draft, can we just notate what the green days are? I mean, they're on the side, but just at the bottom, just maybe community event
sure.
or something. And then is August, on August 20th or 29th, are those still the like orientation days for pre-K and
Yes.
kindergarten?
Or I'm assuming.
Yeah,
They have been previously, we use them to
Right.
test. Right.
That'd be good to have on
it
here.
would just be helpful to
Yep.
notate that.
Agree. I do want
I
to
love having the open houses on there, by the way.
right.
Thank you.
I would like to make
Yeah.
sure that we have, we did it last year too, to make sure that we have our winter concert dates on there.
Mhm.
So, and when we can, to start including the time of those concerts.
Mm.
Smith Academies is at night, so it's a
Mhm.
little bit different, but the ones that are in the day, to have a window for those. So there are families who have to put in for vacation. I know I was talking to one family, they put in for vacation in April and they took time off for the winter concert thinking they could take the afternoon. So
Right.
just having it on here now.
I think that caught some people by surprise that it was morning instead of afternoon.
Mhm.
I know it did at our house.
People that are
Yes.
creatures of habit.
Also,
Right, well, that we didn't,
Yeah.
this particular year, we don't share Leah Gardner. She's at the Smith Academy. So the fact that our concert was the day before the evening of their concert and the moving of students and having them have their dress rehearsal,
Yeah.
it was problematic for her to switch, because I had had a meeting with both of them saying, is it possible to move this? And she's like, I would be pulling out students more out of their academic time blocks at Smith Academy if we did it that way. So,
So it's a learning curve year.
yeah.
And we'll know next year to tell people when we put the calendar out.
So then at what point, because I think it would be helpful to both have Sean and Leah have some input and say, as Leah may not want to do back-to-back
Mhm.
performances, that might have been, that'd be really challenging
Yeah.
moving forward. But I mean, I agree. It's helpful to have these pre-written down, but I think I definitely would like to have some conversation with them to find out specifically, scheduling wise, what that might potentially look like as far as timing.
If we could vote on this tonight, because we get
Yeah.
the vacation days set,
Yeah.
but before this gets published, have them commit to what those
Yep.
dates are.
Sure.
I would be fine on my part if we did all of that and that came in after.
Yeah.
It just
Mhm.
needs to get on there before it goes out.
There's almost 3 full weeks in December,
Yes.
and it can
Yeah.
happen any week.
Yes.
You know,
I agree completely, though. I would like to get these dates out for families, but the community events, I mean, it would be great to have them early, but we don't need them now.
We don't need them to vote.
Right.
They can come on after.
Yes.
But let's agree that we're going to get them on the
For
calendar
the
by, say, the
concert.
1st of January. Because
Mhm.
people start making plans
Mhm.
accordingly.
In that case, then, would we want to also add as community events? It would be the 20th of December, which is the Luminarium, because part of the band participates in that. And Memorial Day, have something in there about the parade, which is on the 24th of May. And I know those are weekends and all of that, but if it's on the school calendar, then parents will see, oh, my band kid,
Because it has a
I
school
was going to say, if they're
Connection.
required
requirement,
for
yes.
school.
so those two things, there is a component of band kids needing to be there. And also the
No,
declamation
Declamation winner. Yeah.
winners,
Mhm.
first and second.
Okay.
Also reminds them that the 20th is an opportunity for volunteering and helping with the luminariums or the parade with the flags and the cemeteries.
So maybe by mid-January, we could get all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other than that, I will make a motion to accept the 2025-2026 calendar with those changes noted.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up is correspondence and resolution. There was some correspondence from a group of students in Northampton, but the timeline for that has actually passed, so I'm not going to worry about that tonight. So they're doing some advocacy around supporting public education, which is awesome. And Dr. Driscoll's following up with them to see if the school can give some commentary to them as opposed to the committee. But we do have an opportunity to put in a letter to the State Board of Education to speak to the request from the Pioneer Valley Chinese Immersion Charter School, who, as you know, is looking to expand by 100 seats. When we met last, we took a look at Dr. Driscoll's letter. We had some conversation about whether we would have our own or we would sign with Dr. Driscoll, and there was a thought that when it comes to sending letters to the state board, that maybe more is better, just a sheer volume of communication. So I have drafted a letter on behalf of the committee and have shared that with the committee members. And it's writing to express opposition. And I will just summarize it by the last sentence of the first paragraph, which is, it's a high cost for a small district to bear, coming at a time of decreased regional student population for a program that doesn't equitably meet students' needs. Sort of the sum of it.
Is that B-A-R-E or B-E-A-R?
I will look that up.
I
it's
believe it's
B-E-A-R.
E-A-R.
Okay, it is.
Bear weight
Yes,
or
it
bear
is.
the burden.
So I will fix that typo. Thank you.
There may be one more
We
that's
could-
underlined in
if
blue.
it's- Oh, that's because my computer isn't doing that for me anymore. So I will fix that typo as well. Thank you for diplomacy. Is there anything you want to change in tenor or content? Does it speak for your interests?
Yes, it looks great. Thank you for doing this.
Sure.
See?
Okay. It feels to me like, I don't know that we technically have to have a vote on that. It feels like we should have a vote on
I
that.
think we should, Miss.
So,
I've been jumping on them all. I don't want to be greedy.
Going on.
Sure. Oh. I would like to make a motion to approve this letter.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that passes with a 4-0. And
Not really,
I will-
but thanks.
I will make sure with Mr. Sullivan that he is okay with his name going on there as well. And we will get those letters out the door because I think they are starting to deliberate that near term.
Appreciate it.
And there will also be a copy going to Rep. Savadosa and Senator Comerford. Okay. We are cruising along. We have gotten to number 14 on our agenda, which is about scholarship approval. So you had a chance to read a really lovely tribute from the Shea family who are interested in adding a scholarship. Do you want to speak to that? Would you like, you have a copy?
Have a copy, yeah. Yeah, I think it's very generous and a very nice tribute to someone who had a significant impact on Smith Academy. As president of the trustees, he continued to add to the community, add to the school for a number of years. So I think what I have to say is just thank you to them, and
Yeah.
nice tribute to them.
I appreciate the way this was written.
Yes.
Key points.
In the past, we have had issue with the older scholarships that didn't more clearly define, like this one does, what happens when, the money is depleted. Some of the old ones were written that, and back in the 70s, interest rates were good and you were awarding the interest on the scholarship, and then it became pennies. So I really appreciate how the Shea family has written this. It is a lovely tribute, and I really like their specifications of who it goes to, and that it embodies the spirit and the personality of Mr. Shea. So I will make a motion to approve the Memorial Shea Scholarship
I'll
as
second.
presented.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Awesome. I will do what I can to write a letter to go along. We'll say thank you from the committee as well. Okay. With that, I would entertain a roll call vote to enter into executive session with the intent to return to public meeting, but not necessarily to return on camera, because it will be a very short vote coming out of that, and we can let everybody else go for the evening that way. So pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section A, 21A, to conduct strategy sessions to prepare for negotiations with union or non-union personnel, to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, if any open meeting may have a detrimental effect. So we need a roll call vote to enter into executive
First, you
session.
need a
We had a motion, which
So
you were about
moved.
to make, and a second, which Becca just gave,
Totally.
I hear. So I will say Boudreaux, aye.
Engelhard, aye.
Bench I.
Green eye.
Great. So with that, we're going to close out our evening on video and move to executive session. Thank you.